Hello everybody, welcome to a video of Martin versus Martin, or Martin, whatever, who cares. So we're gonna start off with the king's pawn opening, Scandinavian defense, and plays e5, which is kind of a strange move, but yeah, no, it's Martin. What can you expect? So, for the beginning of the game, they play like grandmasters, until the move King e2. Because moving the king and trapping your bishop is excellent. Anyway, so Martin plays h6 to respond to that, because they is afraid of the knight going here, or maybe the king going there, and, like, obliterating all his pieces or something. Anyway, so king d3, because the king really wants to get involved in the action. And Martin pulls this crazy idea out of his butt to go knight f2, and fork the king and the queen. Which is a nice idea, and the other Martin doesn't see it, and neither does the black Martin. I'm sorry. And before you call me racist for calling him a black Martin, he has the black pieces, okay? Anyway, so Martin plays a4, still not cognizant of the threat of knight f2. Neither is the black Martin. Plays rook h7. Strikes in, now, Martin strikes in the center, even though he's still losing his queen. So naturally, Martin moves his knight to Martin moves his knight to the worst place on the board, which is a5. And the other Martin undevelops his knight. His threat is still a possibility, even if this king moves. Like, you still got that and that. These two pieces would be forked on the square. So, Martin doesn't see any of that, moves his bishop to b4. At least he's developing his bishop, unlike the other Martin, who has all these pieces undeveloped. No, what is that? Anyway. So, now Martin realizes that putting his knight on g1 is an awful idea. He moves his knight to e2. And Martin still doesn't see knight f2, forking the king and queen. No, I'm just gonna stop saying it at this point, because everyone knows he would do that. Everyone knows you can do that, and everyone knows he will never do that. Anyway, so the king moves out of the way. Now that threat is still possible because the rook and queen get forked. Anyway, so the black Martin moves his king to f8 because he saw that the white king's he saw that the white king was really moving around a lot, like that, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna move farther than you moved, bozo. And so white Martin plays pawn to f4, don't know why, and now white realizes that he needs to actually castle, and so tries to move his king back to e8 in order to try and reclaim his castling rights. Too bad that's not how it works. Anyway, h3, it's just a random pawn move. What can you expect? This pawn structure is weird. Anyway, so Martin takes a free pawn, which, yes, good, and ignores his hanging knight, but so does the white Martin, and he moves his knight out of the way. Now, the black, the white Martin moves his knight to a3, and what is this triangle of death? Anyway, so black Martin moves his king back to f8. The white Martin moves his rook to g1. The black Martin undevelops his knight because he thinks it's in danger or something. I have no idea. And then white Martin goes, actually, I don't like my rook on g1. I'm going to move it back. And so, I guess black was trying to do a rerouting idea that totally doesn't work. Because that's just dead. You can't go there. And going there would be absolutely awful. Yeah, that knight is just not good on c7. Now Martin says, oh wait, actually did want my rook on g1 and moves it back. So Black Martin moves his queen, which, yeah, developing his queen, I guess. Now White Martin develops his bishop. Very good. And now Black Martin moves his king back to f7. Why is he doing this? Why must you do this to me? Anyway, so now Martin moves his other rook one square. Because he likes his rooks like that. It looks cool. Anyway, so Martin now moves his queen one square. The other Martin moves his queen 2 squares, because he's like trying to show off or something, even though that queen does nothing. I mean, neither does this queen, but like, who cares? So now Martin sees the free knight that was right in front of him and takes it. And then Martin moves his queen back because the queen went too far. Anyway, and now Martin has made a square out of all of his king moves. The other Martin plays rook to d1, queen to d8, queen to f1, rook to h8. I mean, typical Martin stuff, just shuffling their pieces for no apparent reason. And now this bishop is on h1. The bishop thinks it's a rook. I don't know why. Knight to e8. Trying to reroute it back to, like, this square or that square or something. So now White Martin moves his queen to e1. I can't read coordinates. And now there are 5 squares which the Black King has traveled to. And now the bishop moves from this square to this square. Truly a momentous movement. And now Martin moves his bishop all the way back to e7, which would be impressive if it did anything. It's like he moved a piece a long way. Anyway, moves. This queen really likes, like, these squares. Not that square. These squares. I don't know why. Now Black Martin's queen goes to a5. White Martin's king goes to b2. Black Martin's bishop goes to f8. Which is, now the bishops are undeveloped. I mean, this bishop hasn't moved this entire game, and it's not going to. Why would you move there? You have no purpose. Like, maybe trying to snake out or something? Why would you do that, though? Like, this bishop is kind of trapped. Alright, so the king now moves back to c2 because he thought that square actually looked really cool. And Black Martin moves his bishop to e7 for some reason. Queen to f3, rook to g8, rook to c1, rook to f8, because they thought the rook was a king or something. I get it, it's a simple mistake. White kind of has like a fortress. Like, all this stuff is guarding against this empty space and not the king. Like, this king is wide open, and all this is like over here protecting 5 squares that are all empty. Anyway, why did I do that? Anyway, so queen to b6, trying to get at that pawn that's defended. Queen to h5, attacking a knight that's already defended. Rook to h8, making sure that pawn has an extra layer of protection, because you can never be too careful. Now the king moves to d3, attacking the knight. Not really, though. And Martin sees the free pawn and takes it. Nice job, Martin. And now the only move is knight to c3. It's not mate, but you are winning a knight. And of course Martin plays that and doesn't see the knight. And now the other Martin moves his king out of the way, which is, yeah, that blunders into a fork. of these two pieces. But of course Martin's never going to see that. Plays rook to g8 because he really likes shuffling that rook around. Martin also likes shuffling that rook around. Anyway, bishop to d6, king to f3, and takes a free pawn. Wait, no, that's free knight. My bad. Takes the free knight, which is actually crazy. Black Martin is dominating with 8 points of material. At least he's not pulling a ChatGPT and moving his bishop to, like, here or something. Well, here, and taking the king and being like, checkmate. Anyway, so, a5, rook b8, because, sure, if you forgot to move that rook. This rook is still hanging. And it moves. Queen moves out of the way to make sure it doesn't get skewered. And leaves the knight to hang. It doesn't matter because the knight doesn't get taken. The knight moves. Rook moves to attack the queen. Queen isn't seen. And Martin moves to b2. 1 square away from a2. Good job, Martin. So the queen takes a free pawn. And now Black Martin is up 9 points of material. It's like he has an extra queen, even though he doesn't. Now the bishop moves to g1 for some reason. The queen moves to a1, trying to attack the bishop and the rook, I guess. I mean, it's Martin. You have no idea what he's thinking. Now Martin attacks the knight. That's a losing trade. Okay. b4, trying to promote the pawn. And Martin gets attacked and doesn't see it. And Martin moves his rook back. And Martin moves his queen out of the way. So now the queen gets attacked. Takes the free pawn. Queen goes up there. The pawn goes there, which is not losing actually. There's a lot of stuff in here. This is a very complex position, as you can see. But the bishop goes back to h1 because he thinks, bro thinks he's rook again. Queen goes to d1. And the king goes to g2 because it's trying to fianchetto the king. Or fianchetto. However you want to say it. Anyway, that's a free pawn. My bad, it's not a free pawn, it can't be attacked. But it's the free knight. So, yes, White Martin does in fact see the free knight. Black Martin moves his knight to g7, which is one of the worst places for a knight. Martin moves his queen to f3. The other Martin moves his pawn to b3, trying to bait Martin's queen into taking the pawn so we can win material. Doesn't work. And White Martin finds a free pawn, attacking the queen moves. White Martin goes to a4 with his rook and attacks the queen. The queen doesn't move. Doesn't take the queen. Queen doesn't move. Doesn't take the queen. Queen doesn't move. Doesn't take the queen. Queen doesn't move. Doesn't take the king. Queen. Yes, there has been like 7 moves where this queen has just been hanging in plain sight and no one has seen it. After a few more moves, Martin plays the ultimate move. Not that. It's one move. Pawn to b1, promoted to a bishop. Martin doesn't acknowledge the attack on his queen. Doesn't acknowledge that he can make a second queen. He promotes to a bishop. Not that move, but this move. He promotes to a bishop and loses the queen. What is this game? Anyway, so he moves his pawn to e5. I hope he doesn't lose this bishop because he sacrificed his queen so he could get that bishop. So he's doubling his rooks on the one row, row 1. And Martin moves his bishop to d3, trying to attack the queen, gain a tempo, except White Martin sees the ultimate finishing blow, removing every chance of victory that Black Martin had. White Martin sees the free bishop. And now, most of these moves are just like stupid. Of course they are. But come on! When Black promoted to a bishop and left his queen to dry, and then also left his bishop to dry. Yes, this game goes on for 20 more moves. But that was the best part. So don't click off the video, please. Rook to c3, bishop to e8, king to e2, rook to h7, rook to c1, bishop to c7, queen to b3, king to f8, bishop to f3, bishop to d6, bishop to g1, bishop to a3, blundering a bishop. Of course he doesn't see it. He only saw, I mean, come on guys, he only saw like 3 blundered pieces. Of course he's not going to see it. So move to king to d2, rook to g7, queen to a4, trying to fork the pawn and the bishop, even though he couldn't just take the bishop and attack the pawn. Rook to c7, rook to e2, bishop to b4, which is a check, and Martin actually sees the taking of the bishop with a check. So Martin blocks with the pawn, of course, naturally the worst move he could have ever played in that position, and moves the king, and moves the queen, because of course he did. The rook moves to c8, rook takes knight, which is a losing trade. That's fine. White Martin is still up a rook. Black Martin plays bishop to g6. Crap. Bishop to g6, queen to a5, rook to e7, rook to d1, so rook to b5. I don't know why I meant to do that, because it pins the rook to the king, also wins a pawn. Didn't play that, of course. Bishop back to h1, it really loves that square. King to g8, making sure that if queen ever took on c5, that it would not be pinned. Rook to c1, king to h8, because of course the place where you want your king is the least safe place possible. Moves the queen up to a4, rook to b5 as a free rook, but the queen thought it was a bishop and ran away. Rook to b3, rook to c5. Stop doing that. Rook takes c5, rook g7, because of course you want to restrict your king's mobility. Queen to f1, bishop to e6, not e6, e8, king to e1, bishop to b5. It's free bishop. Oh wait, no it's not. I'm an idiot. I guess it would be actually, it's a free bishop. Anyway, queen to f6, bishop to c4. I'm really wanting to blunder that bishop, but Martin knows better. He knows where the real prize is at. He's trying to get the checkmate. So of course, Black Martin immediately responds with moving his rook up 1 square, trying to prevent the king's mobility, and gets mated. This was an awful game.